you for joining us on this week's edition of the Comics Pals Image Comics Reviews. Every single week, Image sends us their books early so that we can provide you with reviews on time, day and date. Thank you so much to Image for doing that. This week, we've got 3 books that we're going to be tackling. Amelia Clark makes her debut as a comic book writer on M.O.M, Mother of Madness, #1, with Marguerite Bennett and Lila Leas. Time Before Time, #3. And we're still trucking along with Radiant Black, this issue being the 6th one. So we're going to be tackling all those books today. Before we get into that, definitely want to let you guys know to come hang out with us. We are the Comics Pals. Listen to our main show that drops every single Monday. We're talking about the characters you love and all the places you can find them. And all the news of the industry as well. We also get some pretty good interviews. You guys have heard of Made in Korea. We interviewed the writer of that, Jeremy Holt. They were pretty cool, and I think you guys will get a lot out of that. And of course, recently we interviewed Ram V, the writer of The Swamp Thing and Many Deaths of Lila Starr and other cool stuff like that. So come listen to those. Make sure you guys hit the follow button, leave us a rating or review if you're listening on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button for free, like the video, share it with your friends. All those things are free to do and help us out a lot more than they cost you. Now, let's jump into our review of Mother of Madness. We talked about this on the main show, that it's cool that Amelia Clark is doing a comic book. It will bring awareness to comics. It will bring an audience to comics that might not normally invest in the industry because they don't care about it or don't know about it. And so that is a positive. But at some point, the book has to come out, and it's either going to be good or it's not. And I'm going to say right out front that I do not think it was very good.
I hated this.
I was going to say I'll do you one better. I hated this.
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to be soft.
I don't got it in me to be soft on this one. I did not like this issue.
No bueno.
The fact that it was double long, I think, really made it a lot worse. It was double long, and it's so wordy.
Every balloon is a paragraph.
That was predictable. I said on the main show that one of the biggest problems that writers have when they come into comics is not knowing that you can't just do that. You can't just fill every page with massive balloons, and it's exactly what happened.
And captions. There's so many captions, and it's like, I also don't like the device of the narrator talking directly to us. I really don't think that worked at all. I found that to be extremely off-putting. The comedy I thought was dreadful. Dreadful. Oof. There wasn't one, and not for lack of volume. There's a joke on every page. I didn't think any of them were funny at all. And some of them, I thought at best they were cringy, and at worst they felt like a little condescending sometimes.
My favorite.
Constantly.
Yeah, my favorite was you did 22 Marvel movies. You can give me 5 pages.
And fun fact, that's the fucking 10th page in the book. It's not 5 pages.
And also fun fact, those Marvel movies were good.
Damn. There you go.
I mean, it's the truth is the thing. It's
certainly better than this book.
Yeah, and I don't know, dude. It also very much reminds me of the criticism that I remember we lobbed at home, right? Where it was every one of the background characters who has dialogue has the most stereotypically sexist or to a point where it's unbelievable, because it's so every fucking thing that anybody says, And even the way that the main character talked to her friend and everything, it was every single thing is quippy or laden with buzzwords or and it's just so ham-fisted in there.
This comic book is what comics gators think all Marvel and DC books are like.
Yeah, it has that energy.
It was like a barrage of don't forget, this book is feminist. Don't forget, if you're reading this and you're a man, you suck and you're the problem in this world. Like, it was just crazy, unbelievable. Every single man is like at this party that the book starts in is hitting on a woman, saying something awfully offensive about a woman, saying something racist,
grabbing
like,
her,
grabbing someone. Every single man. That's not the world. That, like, to me, that's taking the problem we have and then swinging so far the other way. You have the other problem.
Yeah, where you
this is not. Yeah. This is ridiculous.
I just found myself rolling my eyes at it, and it's like, just to be clear, if this is the first time you're ever listening to us or whatever, like, this isn't us being like, I don't want to read a book about feminism or something like that.
No.
That's not what this book is about. Like, and I think it bothers me in the same way that it's like it's trying to commodify feminism. It's like you look at the introduction of the main character, right? And she's like, my name is Maya Cooper, and then like you get to just like this part, right? This is the thing that makes me roll my eyes way more than the like every guy is a sexual predator and like that kind of stuff, whatever. Like, this is the stuff that bothered me. I like Ruth Bader Ginsburg speeches and Martha Stewart living. I enjoy more children's television shows than is probably healthy. I lie to myself every January about using the elliptical I bought 4 years ago for anything more than an expensive clothes hanger. I get anxiety, and that's the first bubble. There's 4 more fucking bubbles like that where it's just paragraphs of stereotypes about women.
Right. And that doesn't serve anybody. That doesn't serve anyone. It, like, the character herself is a parody of what comics gators or awful people in real life think that women are like.
This book felt like a lampoon.
Yeah.
Like it felt like an SNL sketch brought to a comic book, like the Coneheads or something. Like,
which you can do, like, those things were successful for a reason, right? Like those kind of sketches and movies. But that's with people that are super talented at doing that. Like, not anyone can do that. And by the way, I don't know how effective this style is in comics. If you have an actor who has chops, who can sell you on some of these lines, okay. But when I'm just reading them flat, it's just like, nah, man, this isn't even funny, dude. And I want to point this out too, because Pete made a good point. Like, we're not saying these things because we just don't want this kind of, like, it's not the point of what Amelia Clark wants to do. I'm with.
Yeah, 100%.
And when you read the letter in the back matter that she wrote, I loved it. All her points were phenomenal, and everything she had to say was like, yes, this is what I want. She talks about how, she wants this book to be something that, young girls and women can read, and that young boys can read. Even this quote right here. Now, don't feel that I've forgotten about men. I have not. My dad was a wondrous human. My brother is the best man I know. All my male friends are good humans, but the society we live in today doesn't help you boys out one bit. Toxic masculinity is real, and it affects everyone. There are characters aplenty in this story that address this too. If we can educate our boys young, then we can stand a chance at beating this problem to a pulp. If you are a boy, if you are a man, why would you read this book and go, yes, I want to be a part of tackling the problem? How does this book speak to you? How does this reach you where you live? It doesn't. It's frustrating to read.
It's frustrating too, because again, like, as someone who is receptive to this kind of narrative and this kind of story, it would be super easy to have that opening scene establish the same things. Like, these are the things that women go through, right? Like, all of those things have some level of truth to them, right? I'm not sitting here trying to deny that fact. It's the way that it's presented as, like, I get it. Like, I get that it's trying to boil down the totality of what that's like into a moment. It doesn't work for me. And, like, if you believe in that and that's what you're trying to put forward, right? How easy would it have been to have, rather than, I don't know, 5 or 6 different versions of the same character interaction where she hears or sees some guy being a sexist, right? You could easily show what you're talking about in terms of the like men have a role to play in this and blah 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 blah, right? Have it be two of her coworkers making some comment, or one of them makes some comment about some woman, and then the other one's visibly uncomfortable, but he doesn't feel like he can say anything because boys club, that's what this company, like, that would be speaking to what you're talking about, where you want to say, oh, like the patriarchal system doesn't do men any favors either. Sure, yeah, that's absolutely true. But like showing that she has a neighbor who's a nice guy is not the same thing as like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
standing in the way of like an allyship by just representing the negative aspect of it and not purporting some sort of solution, to your point, Pete, is like, okay, sure, you can show all this stuff, but if you show somebody, if you show somebody who steps in, who does the due diligence and be like, hey, this isn't cool. All right, you've made a point, you've sent a message, and it, I think, comes out more effective than 52 pages of, she's just not rational, she's hormonal, blah, 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 like of consistent shitting on of what people think a stereotypical woman would be.
Or like what a stereotypical sexist man is like too, because that's the other thing that bothers me. I'm not offended by the portrayal of men as being sexist. A lot of men are sexist and do this shit. Fine, that's not the issue. In my mind, it's more that like by not acknowledging the man who doesn't say the sexist thing but allows the sexist thing to be said, you're not actually addressing like the culture of misogyny.
Right.
And I would rather see a man who knows that it's wrong not step up for it and then feel bad, rather than a man who's going to be a white knight and be like, oh, he's one of the good ones. That's not really helpful either. Like, I think it's a way more biting commentary on the culture of sexism if you show that there are men who don't necessarily say or do sexist shit that are 500% complicit in it, because it's easier to be silent than to be an ally. Like,
let's talk about the book.
Sure.
Let's talk about the book for its merits. We've gone on. As a comic book, putting aside our feelings about the narrative itself in terms of how it presents men or whatever, I just don't think it's strong. I think that the dialogue is generally weak. And, it presents us this character who basically has every power. And even that is kind of tied into, how we talk about women, their emotions, they're very emotional, they're all over the place. And that wasn't terrible. The idea that, her powers shift on her emotions. I just didn't connect with this character. She spent so much time talking.
Yeah.
That I never really felt anything for her.
Well, and it undercuts itself as well. It on page 23, when she's speaking with her coworker, Boone, and they're having a conversation about how they're not crazy. And then Boone says something about her sunglasses. And then on the next page, it's an extreme close-up of the main character. And she's doing this monologue about how she, I guess about feminism and how she feels and how that makes her feel or whatever. And like, when I first read that, I was like, okay, the context there's a little weird, it's jarring, but then immediately it undercuts itself, because that wasn't a soliloquy. She wasn't doing like she was in the rest of the book, where she's talking at the audience. I guess she's saying this to a person. And the person literally says and gives her a cookie and a gold star.
And says, here's your ally cookie.
But yeah.
Come on.
It's like, okay,
dude.
all right, there's a degree of this that I could handle as the soliloquy that she's given us. We already know that device is already in place where she's facing us, there are people around, and she's talking. But that's not what that was. How? How do you what?
Also, like, I don't know, like, maybe this is me, like maybe I lost the thread of the narrative. That felt like it came out of nowhere.
That's what I'm saying.
Like they're talking
Yeah.
about the workplace and everything, and then
And her sunglasses.
and then she's like, "Oh, you know, you'll solve white feminism another day or something like that." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, how did what? Like, and again, like, it's not me being
It doesn't work.
It just
Yeah.
it gives me like whiplash.
Yeah.
You know?
So sorry, go ahead, Marco.
I just wanted to what Sean said. I did want to praise the idea of her power set, because I thought it was interesting to be able to play into that, because it is very situational in the different situations that she approaches, and like towards the end of the book where she fights her way through to try to save this person. Her powers change. She uses them in an effective way based off of how based off of some of the previous perceptions that were built into the story, and the dialogue. I think it some of that narrative overstays its welcome in the execution of the powers. Like, I don't think she needs to have a speech bubble in every single panel where she's fighting. You kind of let that action live. But I thought at the very least it was an interesting concept that I don't know got executed in the best way. And I think in part the reason why it looks good is because of the art.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like the way that it flows, I think makes a lot of sense. There are a few moments, like there's a train scene where it's like a 2-page kind of splash, and she just ends up in the front of the train that I don't think worked necessarily, but there were definitely moments where the art does a really good job of communicating things that you can see and feel, where the bubbles and the captions get in the way of.
I think, and even the paneling on some of like the fight pages, and
Oh.
even before that, like the paneling in this book is really, really good. But it's all blocked off by these mountains of text and balloons.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because the words are masking some really strong art. I think that the point about her powers, right? Like the way they use her powers here, what her powers are, how they work, is the perfect way to say something, right, without saying it. Like, we all understand why a woman would have powers like that. Why in a story like this her powers would operate that way, and what the messaging of that is. You don't need to go on a soliloquy about that. We understand. Or you can briefly touch on why that would be that way, or whatever, and then move forward. It feels like every point is stuck on for a really long time. So this feels like just one long run-on sentence. And in comics, I mean, I think, frankly, almost in everything, but certainly in comics, less is more. And I really think this book needed some editing. Like, I think there needed to be some intervention.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many hands on this book. Like, what's a principal contributor and producer on a comic book?
I have no idea.
What does that mean?
I think again, like the fact that it's like a double long issue too, and it feels like it's trying to do like every single thing that you might do in the first arc, right? Like let's explain who she is and who does she care about and what's her job and what's her backstory and how do her powers work and how does she become a superhero? Like literally all of those things they try to do in 52 pages. And I feel like it just crumbles under its own weight. Like, let alone that there are aspects of the script that didn't work for us just like on a dialogue level, but like mechanically, it has so much it's trying to achieve. I just feel like it can't get out of its own way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know how much of any bit of this is attributed to Emilia Clarke versus Marguerite Bennett. I don't know like how they split up duties, or if Emilia Clarke even put pen to paper. I don't know. I assume.
Yeah.
Because Bennett is talented. Like, I'm not trying to say anyone here is not talented, but like Bennett is a comic writer, so she knows how to write comics.
Yeah.
And this is just not the way. But I hate that we had to come in so hot on this and we had such negative opinions. It is what it is. We're judging it on the merits of the comic.
I wanted to like it. I really like Amelia Clark. Like
Me too.
I said when they announced this, I hope that it was good because I think it really sucks that she's such a great actress and that like she's kind of typecast and like the last season of that show sucked and like I would love for her to get over and be able to do and be more things than that because I think she's really talented. Like it gives me no pleasure to say that I did not like this book at all.
Yeah. And frankly, just to be really transparent, I think this issue it only exists to make a movie. I don't think that there's I know she says that she's got a love of comics. I don't doubt that by any means. I think this comic exists to make a movie. Even the way it ends, this does not end in the way of like, hey, come back for the next issue. This ends in the way of like, here's a massive teaser for something else. Yeah, I don't know. This was a bummer.
Disappointment.
Yeah, big major disappointment. Let's move on to something that I at least liked a lot more. Time Before Time. This, of course, is by Declan Shalvey and Rory McConville, who share writing duties on the book. Joe Palmer is the artist. Chris O'Halloran did the colors, and Hassan Usman El How did the letters. Heather Antos was the editor, and Sasha E. Head is the designer. I was a little cooler on the second issue, but this one brought me back in a lot of ways. I thought this was a strong issue.
I thought so too. The pace of it was really good.
Yeah.
Like it just fucking moves and it doesn't give you enough time to time. I got to the last page and I was like, oh shit, we're done already? Like it was that kind of book, and not because it felt thin, but because it moved so effortlessly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting more and more invested into Tatsuo as a character.
I like him.
Yeah, I really like the decisions that he makes. He's clearly a good guy who's ultimately just in a bad situation. And he's trying to make the best of it. Like the opening sequence where he really wants to, in 2038, where he really wants to allow this whole family to go with him. But they can't. And he tries to make it work and it just won't fit. But there's still that moment where it's like, okay, if you want this to happen, then let it come out of your dime. And that's just that's not the way it works. Not his dime, but like his. I guess he's like
in debt to them.
And he's in debt. Like they would add time to his debt to pay for this, and he won't do.
Yeah.
Not that makes him bad. It's just like adds a little bit of a wrinkle to it, which I appreciated.
Yeah. It gives you more of a sense of like who his character is, right? Like he's a good guy, but maybe not a hero.
Yeah. And by the way, imagine if everything we just like laid out right there was written in the page. Imagine how much longer this comic would have to be.
Well, and how much less I would like it. I mean, that's one of the things I like about this book from the beginning is that it trusts you to follow it and not like spoon feed. Here's how time travel works. It's like, nah, I get it. I'm along,
Yeah. And when they did explain it, they used the strengths of the medium, the things that you can do only in comics, the artwork, to help bring that to the forefront.
Show, don't tell.
And we're still kind of in a point in this book where they're trying to get out of this really bad situation they found themselves in last time, where they're stuck. And kind of found themselves in the middle of this whole, big thing that's going on. I want to jump to the end where we find out that this woman was actually working for the
the syndicate.
The syndicate. She was working for the syndicate the whole time. I didn't see that shit coming.
No. That really surprised me when she just like shot that dude like mid conversation. I was like, whoa.
For a second, I thought it was because he had opened the window and like somebody outside had shot him. But then I looked back at the panel. I'm like, no, but the gunshot's coming from like a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously it was her, and I was like, okay, like, yeah, this is. But then she yells out "fucking traitor," and I'm confused.
Tetsuo.
Why?
Yeah,
He
she was
sold
talking
them
to
out.
Tetsuo. Yeah.
It's to cover. She yelled that out to cover her ass.
Oh, okay. I see.
Wait, what do you mean to cover her ass?
Excuse me. To make it look like, she was, fighting a traitor instead of being the traitor.
Oh, I took it as she's calling him a traitor because he's betraying the syndicate.
I took it that way too.
Yeah, I think that's why she said that.
Oh, okay.
That also
Like,
makes sense.
yeah, she murked this dude and was gonna ice him and then go back to the syndicate.
Right.
He's a loose end.
Okay.
See,
And he
The
totally fucking sold them right out.
the effects on the shot, the blam,
Yeah.
so cool.
So cool.
Mhm. And like the weird face he makes.
Yeah, crosses his eyes.
His eyes
Super
go all
funny.
across and his tongue's like sticking out. Yeah. And I really like the sense of momentum in this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like it happens and then like his body's like getting moved around and like you always have a sense for where his body is between them and how it's being used. And it just feels good. You know, the action in this book is so clear and easy to follow. Things are very well communicated in the art. I feel like there's never room for misinterpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And they keep finding ways to flip the story on its head. Like if you think about all the things that have happened across just the 3 issues, like how many times have the tables turned? I'm really enjoying that aspect. It keeps me on my toes as a reader. And in a story that's about crime, like that's what you want, right?
Yeah. It keeps you invested, because it's like when it swerves, it feels like a twist, but not one where you're like, oh, like that's coming out of nowhere. That doesn't make it, it's like very like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that,
Yeah.
And it makes you, like, to me anyway, it makes every issue feel like a real page turner,
Yeah, absolutely.
I also appreciated that. I'm forgetting the FBI agent's name, but I appreciated that they're giving her a little bit more context too, because there was definitely the moment of issue 1 and 2 where I'm like, okay, who is this person? I'm not sure I'm following, and like we're getting a little more about her, and that's good. It's a good way to build the story out.
I like that her motivations are personal. I was worried
Yeah.
about that. I was worried
Yeah.
that she was going to be like,
investigating or some shit,
acting on someone else's behalf, some shit like that. The fact that they're both just like, people who have lost something. It's like, you can see how they'll become friends. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I honestly, I don't have much more to say. I think the issue was pretty straightforward and
slapped.
And yeah, it was really good. It looks great still. I'm loving it. I'm on board.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I think this book rocks. I've been really excited to pull it every time it comes out. Hasn't let me down yet.
One thing, just on the art consistency standpoint, there's a page on 18 where they're just getting in the car and they're in a busy city. You see people walking around and stuff. And then after everything happens in the car, they end up and they're just like in an empty street and an empty area. It just felt like the book was a lot quieter at that point. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, because they did crash into somebody. So like obviously somebody else was there.
Yeah.
But then it's just the one car.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
Yeah, I thought that was a choice.
Yeah.
Like to like obscure everything else, Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good stuff. Now, we're going to talk about Radiant Black #6, a book that is divisive on this podcast. It's divisive in the comments section every single time we review it. This is by Kyle Higgins, of course, who had an assist this month by Cherish Chen, a name I'm not familiar with.
Me either.
Nor am I familiar with the artist this week, Darko Lafuente. Colors were by Miguel Muerto, with letters by Becca Carey, a name I am familiar with, finally. With the editor and designer being the same person, Michael Busatil.
That's probably, yeah, Busatil.
Yeah. Pete, how did you feel about this issue?
It's all right. Like, I definitely, we knew that this was gonna be a side story and not push things forward from issue 5 in advance. So, like, I think knowing that ahead of time was valuable, because I think if we hadn't known that, it would have been a real disappointment to come into this issue and not have it pick things up, because obviously 5 is really where it feels like things are ramping up. But I know that it seems like there's bigger plans for this character as a lead in this story. So I guess if they wanted to get the backstory out, like, that's fine. Like, it needed to happen at some point. And I know we talked about how can you remind me the name of the original artist? Marcelo Costa, right?
Yeah,
he had that hand injury. So I imagine that probably is the reason that this is happening where it's happening or whatever, right? Like, give him a chance to heal up and get back on the book. So, you know, I'm like, that's fine. Like, that as much as I would have rather this issue come at another point, and I would have liked to see things move forward, I didn't dislike this issue. You know, like, I thought it's valuable if all of these characters are going to be the characters that we have to follow and root for and all those things. Like, you want to start learning about them sooner or later. So, you know, it was fine. Like, it definitely didn't blow my skirt up, but I definitely wasn't, I don't know, I didn't feel like burnt by it either.
I love this issue.
All right.
This was a lot of fun.
Cool.
I think the art, this is like the first time
Marco's like, I love watching a fucking marriage fall apart. Just a good old time, you know?
Well, it's just like, it's compelling. I had a good time with that. I cared for these characters. I cared for, you know, the trouble that they're going through.
Deeply relatable for Marco too.
Yeah.
He's got gambling problems and he's got a wife that's money hungry.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Jesus. I don't think that's a fair way to describe this character or Mariana.
Think about it.
But on the art piece, I feel like I've been really critical of Acosta, and this was probably my favorite issue from an art perspective. Yeah, this whole thing worked for me. It worked so much where I'm like, this should spin out. This should be its own thing, and then this should be the thing that we're reviewing, not fucking whatever this is called.
Wait, you don't like Marcelo Costa's art?
It was fine.
What?
You're crazy.
Yo, give me Radiant Red, bro. That's what I want here.
Marco, like, that this had like the anime action lines behind people's faces sometimes. I think
yeah, hell
really
yeah.
There's that one page where she's like really surprised and she's like, and it's like all the lines behind her. I'm like, there you go. That's what got Marco in.
The artist is David Lafuente. Apparently, he started going by a pen name in like within the past year.
Oh, okay. I have heard of David Lafuente.
Yeah.
That's a choice.
I mean, what about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, the story between them was kind of interesting, I guess. You know, it's an origin. I felt for this character, the Radiant Red character who we're following here. I felt for her, and you know what she's dealing with. Her husband sucks, but he's got a problem. It is what it is. It felt run of the mill. Like this is we've seen things like this. The only twist to the story is simply that she has the ability to to solve her problem physically. She can go to a bank and rob it and get the money that they need. All this does is provide context for her being a bank robber. And I could have probably done with just a couple of lines of dialogue, like maybe a page worth of dialogue to explain why she did what she did. I don't know that I needed an entire issue. And on the art front, I mean, it was okay. I really prefer what's happening in the series every other issue that Marcelo Costa draws. This was okay. I wasn't that into it, to be honest. The hands were really creepy. There's like those bones you have like right here.
Yeah.
Like
Knuckles.
every character's bones right there look like really disturbing. Like if you go to page 10, look at Satomi's hands. They're insane. Like, what is happening?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no,
It's
I
so
see. I see
funny.
what you
Yeah,
mean.
I like her knuckles.
Her knuckles
and
are
stuff.
Her
super
knuckles,
pronounced.
yeah. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word.
Looks like she's in a
They
fight
look like-
club.
They look like extra fingers coming out of her knuckles.
I wasn't sure. Yeah, when I first looked, I was like, wait, what's happening to her? Like, is that a thing that she's like, what's going on? And then on the middle panel there, where she's leaning on her man, that one's weird. But the one next to that, I was like, wait, is his hand on her hand? Like, why is her shit so big? Like, she's a tiny person. Her hands are that big. Like,
But look in the middle panel, it looks like his knuckle is a separate hand with like a nail and everything.
oh my god. And then on the panel left of that, you can see his arm holding the phone. It looks like a fake arm. It looks like an arm that you can take apart. That's how pronounced all his like features are in his arm. It's disturbing. My favorite panel in the whole book is where they're laying down and she's like sitting up, or not sitting up, but like laying in bed on her back, looking like, scared about her future. I thought that panel got a lot across about who she is. Everything else was fine. It was serviceable at best. I didn't really care for this.
I think some of there were some moments that really worked for me. I really like the opening scene where like they're talking with her parents or whatever, and there's like the shot of the two of them like smiling at each other, and it's like, you two are gonna make a beautiful family, and then it's like they have these very like hard stone faces while they're driving home. Like that.
Yeah.
That cut worked for me. I don't know. I thought this was fine.
Yeah. It's unfortunate what happened to Marcelo Costa. I hope that's the reason that we got this diversion, because I was ready to get on the train. Like the 5th issue was like pretty hot, and then this just cooled me. So
I mean, it looks like the next issue is what we wanted. Like it says issue 7, the title's Radiance, and like the teaser images, all 4 of them that we met last issue, like in a lineup type thing. So hopefully, next month we're off to the races here.
Cool, but what's after that?
More of this, I hope.
We'll have to find out.
Radiant Pink's origin.
Yo, that'd be cool
likely.
too.
Did anyone read the backstory? The backup story, I should say.
Yeah, I was very confused. I don't think this is something we've read before. I don't think it didn't seem like it belonged.
I thought that's a
with
different
this.
book.
Yeah, I thought it was.
It's
too.
not related to Radiant, right?
No, but
think
it was
so.
definitely like it was credited in the credits, the Unleashed Echoes of Sorrow Part 2, and I was just wondering if anyone had read Part 1. Was that in a prior Radiant Black issue?
It
Do we
was.
know what this is?
I recognize those characters, like the two, it's all black and white, and they've got like the pink and green hair. Like I remember them being in one of the back matters, but I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, this is that thing they do in comics where they're showing the first 6 pages of another book they want you to buy because this book is selling well or whatever. So I ignored it the first time, and I didn't look at it again this time for the same reason. I didn't realize it was a story that exists in the back of Radiant Black only.
I love the way it looked, but I just couldn't be bothered to read it. I'll be honest.
I mean, I read it. I couldn't make sense of it.
Okay.
It seems like a story about people who are going between like genre dimensions, I guess is the only way I can figure out how to put it.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, that's going to do it for our reviews here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our conversations about these books. Unfortunately, we weren't too up on any of them except Time Before Time. Well, Radiant, we were kind of, that Marco liked it. We will be back next week at the same time on the same day to review whatever books we're interested in at that point, or whatever books you recommend. If there's a book you want to see us talking about that we are not, write in and let us know. If you've got a pick that you really think we should be addressing, let us know. thecomicspals@gmail.com. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Leave us a follow, or rating, or review wherever you listen to this podcast, unless that's YouTube, in which case hit the subscribe button for free, like the video, share it with your friends. All that stuff's free to do, and it helps us out a ton. Make sure that you guys are listening to the weekly podcast, The Comics Pals. It drops every single Monday. If you comment on our episodes, that's where we respond. So check that out. We do the comments section really early. So if you want to hear our takes on what you think, tune in and check that out. We've even got timestamps for you guys. So make sure you guys are listening to that. I think you'll like it. With that, we're the Comics Pals signing off. Until next time, take care, guys.
See you next week.